I've been to several of the interviews that Iannis has participated in, and everyone has asked me, they've all spoken about math and about science and about his great work as an architect with Le Corbusier. And very few people have broached the subject about the war, and I know everyone has asked me would I talk to Iannis about the war. So I guess I'm taking a bit of a chance here because we all know that the war and the sounds and the lights and the whole involvement was very essential to the development of his art and these sounds in his music, yet it's very abstract music. You couldn't say this is a gunshot or this is a riot or whatever, but the whole idea of this madness somehow made a deep impression in him and has been always, to some degree, more or less, more in my opinion than less, in his music. Could you talk about a little bit of your early experiences and how that integrated itself into the music, maybe the music we've been hearing tonight?
I studied, secondary studies, were on an island, and we had two headmasters, one Greek and one British. And afterwards, the war broke up, and I stayed in Athens with what? With in an illegal battle against the Germans. The Italians first, and then the Germans. And I was wounded there. And I have a scar here. But I was kept alive. Then I wanted to come to the States because I had some relations, uncles and cousins and things like that. But I stopped in Paris. And I lived there for since after the war. I was, nevertheless, I was professor somewhere in Bloomington, which is south of Indianapolis, for 5 years. And that's it.
Your work with Le Corbusier was very interesting because in the books that I've read, they always speak about the fenestration or the window panels for the monastery of La Tourette, and that there's a certain rhythm to that, a certain irregularity and a rhythm that the panels make of the cathedral. Was it music, the idea of irregular rhythms in 20th century music, that gave you this idea in La Tourette, or was it the other way around? How does that work with you, or did it at that period of your writing?
Well, the human brain is the same when he writes music or when he paints or when he is doing architecture. So the rhythms I had already experienced in music, and it was very easy for me to transport that in architecture. He says about vertical separations of the glasses. This is what you mean.
Yes, the windows for La Tourette.
Well, yes, are windows, high windows. So that gave me the opportunity to play, to make a kind of counterpoint, rhythmical counterpoint in space with two floors, yes. The upper levels were balconies and things for the priests.
Where they lived, the resident area, is that what?
Yes, right.
The rectory.
It was done for the monks who were not far away, but they wanted something better than that. They were in Lyon, the city of Lyon. And so they had something better to do, but I don't know how much they occupied it, because after I left, I went back years ago once, and there were no monks there.
Really?
I don't know why.
What was there?
Huh?
What was there?
Oh, there were, well, they had monks that were coming for summer, like holidays, you see. So that's it.
In your work, many people have referred to you as being a romantic, late 20th century romantic, because in your music there's always this preoccupation with textures. And much in the same way that Beethoven or Brahms, a first theme in a Brahms symphony is one texture, the second theme is usually another texture. And in that way, people call your work romantic because you deviated from the bebop school of fragmentation and 12-tonism. Could you speak a little bit about that? This was a very brave path to take at that time in the 1950s already, to be writing such mass textures and waves of sound and things that were already forgotten about in light of the Webern, post-Webern, Stockhausen, Boulez school, that no-no that was going on at that time in Europe.
Well, the problem of music is to escape from the immediate contemporary things. And my contemporary beings at that time was, as you said, the three masters of dodecaphonic music, and then the followers of that, which were like Boulez, Stockhausen, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about another way to do music by incorporating in the composition work the probability theory, probabilities, because they were very interesting for me, and I studied by myself probabilities. At that time, they were almost not known. Nobody, that was in the 50s. Almost nobody, it was very specific problem. So I did that, and then I composed the pieces, Metastasis and Pythopracta and so on. But it was not only that. After a while, I studied logic. Logic from logic, various logic, the rules of logic, and so on and so forth. So my self-reading was based on those things, in order to have the other ways to compose music.
You've often talked about with clouds of sound, and whether it even be clouds of pointillistic sound or staccati brass, there's always this idea in your music of mass textures overlapping or thinning out or thickening or whatever. And I've also read several things by you where you talk about phenomenon of nature, the blinding sun or waterfall or huge swarms of bees. And have these sounds also incorporated themselves in your music with the mathematical calculations of probability and Brownian movement and other random procedures you use to give this? Is it a nature sound, or is it this hysteria from the war, or what is it just all integrated in your mind as being a new approach to music to translate these natural phenomena?
You see, the problem is that we have a small mind. I have a small mind. That means that, no really, that means that the things that you can do with what you read or learn are very few. I would like to have a gigantic mind to do more things than that. But it's impossible.
Well, you've written about 185 works now, which probably makes you the most prolific composer of the...
Oh yes, but there are very short pieces.
But there's...
The last one.
But Kronig that we just did is 75 minutes. Doesn't that balance some of the
Yes,
short...
That was when I was younger, you see, so I was writing longer pieces.
Well, it's been very kind of you to stand up and talk about these things, which I know are very personal to you. Everyone, young composers I know, all hear a piece by ears and say, oh, that's such a fantastic effect. I'd like to imitate it. And being a past composer myself, I can plead guilty to the same charge. Why is it that nobody can sound like you? They can write glissandi, they can write clouds, but never get, I believe the reason is there's something very deeply personal in all of these abstract techniques you use, that the sum of the math, of the natural phenomenon, of your own experiences in the war and all of this, somehow lead to a very personal voice from you in everything, even though it's so abstract.
People are personalized. Some more, some less. And this is why we have societies and revolutions and things like that, and wars. But there are things that are more, I mean, persons that are more, let's say, personal. And so it's like what? Like having in a what's the thing, with many trees in a forest, some of them that are higher than other ones, different. Forest, the same kind of tree. There are such things, of course, and you see certainly one that is higher than others. I don't know why. So this happens with society. There are people that are more or less the same. Some of them are a little bit more intelligent or more clever, I don't know. And they are outstanding somehow people.
Are there one or two questions? Yes?
I'm wondering, I know you were interested in Greek folk music when you were younger, maybe ancient Byzantine music. I'm wondering if...
Will you pay attention?
I'm listening to... He's wondering about Byzantine music in your earlier life.
Byzantine music.
Yes, was this an influence to you, or is
I
it still in some
studied
way?
that. I studied also ancient music, especially the Greek music, like Aristophanes, and so on and so forth.
Does it have any bearing on what you do now? Do you listen to it or study it at all?
Do you listen to Byzantine music or study it continually now or in any way that has a present-day influence on what you're doing now?
No, I don't think so. I studied Byzantine music because it was interesting to see how they were working the melodic patterns.
Yes?
What do you think about using your music for other mediums beyond the concert stage, and how do you feel about that? Or using your music in any other way, transcriptions, be it, or film, or I know you've done some theater.
What did he say?
How do you feel about having your music used in theater or film or other media if that were to take place? Would you be
It's already written.
No, if the people are serious.
So that's previously written pieces.
Yes.
Would that be objectionable to you, or would you find that interesting?
No. I heard some publicity here in New York where they used Beethoven music or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Car commercials.
Car commercials, yes. So they was a little upset at the beginning, and then I said, why not? People learn that way better, perhaps. They got that in the ears.
I wanted to thank the Foundation for Hellenic Culture for making these weeks possible with Iannis Xenakis, for Dick and Jody Nordloff of Rockford, Illinois, who are also far seekers and seers, and of course to the French Cultural Services of the French Embassy.